Welcome in, Cowboys Nation, to Cowboy Game Day Live, the post-game show presented by BT Furnishing. Make sure you guys go check out BT Furnishings at any of their 4 locations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're talking about Dallas, Garland, Plano, and Arlington. Or you can head on over to btfurnishings.com to furnish every need in your home. We're talking about the one-stop shop with their buy more, save more sale going on right this moment. And the Skywalker Steel Special is still going on as well. Just go in there, let them know, hey, I'm here for the Sky Special. Got the recliner, the sofa, the love seat, and a free recliner for only $9.99. That's BT Furnishing. They make shopping fun, fast, and easy. That game was not fun, fast, or easy for the Dallas Cowboys as they get out of Miami with a loss 22-20 in a very frustrating one. They're going to beat themselves up over this one because they had opportunities in the first half, and obviously in the second half, the defense had an opportunity to get off the field, and they didn't. And we were talking about this behind the scenes, Jesse, just being an undisciplined team at the wrong moments, right? And do you consider decision making also undisciplined? Because I don't get how you get down to the 4th and 1 and you do all that play action stuff, but they did score the touchdown. Dak drives them down there, 10 plays. 17 plays. 17 plays to take the lead, 20-19. But to be completely honest with you, me personally, I didn't have a whole lot of faith that the defense was going to keep them out of field goal range. And they did just that, Jesse. And they go down there, kick the game, win the field goal, and Dallas gets out of there with the L for the first time, back-to-back losses. Ironically, last time it happened, it was 2 uncommon opponents, AFC opponents from the same division. It was the AFC West, and this time it's the AFC East.
Yeah, coming into this game, we talked about some of the things that the Cowboys needed to do to come out of this game victorious. And, they did some good things. They did some good things in this matchup today, but the ugly, undisciplined monster reared its ugly head.
Sure.
In moments when you didn't need it to happen. And for the Cowboys, you have to start saying this is who they are, right? When it comes to the undisciplined, when you talk about years and years and years of you being one of the most penalized, one of the most undisciplined football teams in the league, eventually it's who you are, right? We got to stop saying it's this, it's that, it's third. This has become a staple of who Mike McCarthy's football teams have been in the Dallas Cowboy era. They've been undisciplined football teams. They've been penalized football teams. And in these moments when you play good football teams, you got to be clean and you have to be penalty free as best as you possibly can. And we saw moments today where Chuma Edoga gave up some unthinkable assignment errors that led to sacks and led to bad things happening for this football team. And then in moments where you really need your team to hunker down, when your team is really need to get off the field, you give up 15 yards on a penalty. And that's just who the Cowboys are at this point in time. Like that's them. That undisciplined and penalty-laden football team is the Dallas Cowboys. With some other good things sprinkled in there. I do think there were some good things that we saw in this football game today, but it just wasn't enough to pull it out in the end.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a second. But you brought up the Chuma thing, and I am I'm irate about it because look, Chuma does the best he can do, right? But and I'll try to be respectful as possible right now because I was not behind the scenes. But you have to be one of the least smartest tackles I've ever seen play because this isn't the first time he's done this. If for those who watch the show, when we used to pull the film up when Chuma was starting, a lot of times we said there's always a couple random times where Chuma completely lets the defensive end free, and it's not due to the play. And he did this twice. The second time it didn't kill you because you still score, but the first time you could argue that swings the game right there because the Cowboys score a touchdown or Dak maybe can run, step up, try to make a play. You're possibly talking about a win here and not a loss. You can also talk about the fumble. But I just question his football IQ in those moments. That's Bradley Chubb. That's Judon. That's whomever else is the number one tackle or defensive end for you out there. And you constantly, yes, because it's multiple times in the game, let them free. And
Yeah.
it just boggles my mind. I don't understand it. I would love for somebody to ask, if not him, ask coach. And I don't want coach to sugarcoat it. Hey, he screwed up. Say he screwed up. Say he screwed up because he did. But that was just one part of it. Not, converting in the red zone early in the game was another part of it. Um, we talked about one of the things. If Dallas did this, they would win. It's funny. Is how this works out. I said if Dallas stops their run game, I think they get the victory. Right. You look at this 26 for 91. The longest run was 15 yards. I would have came away, Jesse, saying Dallas stopped the run game. Right. Here's the problem. When you needed to stop the run game at the end of the game, you couldn't. And
Right.
I'm not trying to go back to this whole Micah Parsons linebacker thing, but I think if you mix it up, it works. It worked. It was working when you put Micah back there, mixing it up and let him play on rundowns, right? End of the game, where did they run, Jesse?
Up the
Away
middle.
from Micah.
Oh yeah. Well.
Yeah, away from Micah, right? If you put Micah in that middle, maybe Micah has a chance to make a play. They didn't call the hold on Clark. It is what it is. Both sides penalties are trash. But I was telling my man, like, this needs to be a series where Dan Quinn dials up his best play, and your best player was taken out on the play you needed to stop. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, that. That's why I said coming into this game, like styles makes fights, and how you want to do this thing, because at times it's like you damned if you do and you damned if you don't, right? It's like, yes, mix it up, and it's like you. I think with the way that Miami runs their system, that they could find ways and options, and other teams can as well. I mean, I've been in part of offenses where you have offenses when you can come out to huddle, and if there's a certain way that we want to go, we can come out and say, all right, this is the way that we want to go. And then we get there and and the defense swaps, then we just make a call to go the opposite way, right? And I mean, it's the call is as simple as opposite, 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 or oh. And now we know that everything is going the opposite way. So mixing it up with Micah, I think, is key. But in those crucial moments, man, at times you're like damned if you do, damned if you don't with teams like this, because they have the option and the ability at times to say, okay, well, if he's over there, then we're going to do our normal thing, but we're going the opposite way, or vice versa. You just never want to find yourself in a situation where you're in that dire need of that one stop. Because even when they went to the Tyreek Hill play to convert the first down, right? It was like his own. They went to man. What happens? Jordan Lewis slips. He gets caught up in the trash. He and Gilly run into each other. Tyreek Hill goes out there and gets a first down. So it's a tough situation to be in, because you Dan Quinn, if we're being honest, Dan Quinn is really the culprit of this. It's and I get injuries happen, and you can't really always rely on injuries, but when you made a decision in your mind that Michael was going to be a bona fide pass rusher, and then you did not do enough to put the depth behind the guys at linebacker, and you decided to go out there and say, hey, we're going to go with the smaller type of linebacker situation, then now that's put you at a disadvantage, right? It's worked in some instances, but when you start to get to that December playoff football, teams are going to start saying, all right, we're gonna impose our will in the run game when we need to. And now you have to make a decision, because your defense is solely based around Micah Parsons being a pass rusher off the edge. And so switching it up throws everything else off, and your packages have to come in spurts to do that, because this is just the way that you built the foundation of what you are and who you are as a defense. Maybe there's more opportunities for guys like Rashaan Evans, who's more of a linebacker, who understands keys, who understands run fits, who understands how to do certain things. But at the end of the day, we can say Micah could be off, Micah could be on, he can play safety, he can play corner. But at times, you're just going to have to say, you know what? We got to just lock in and do one simple thing and make a stop, whether that's Micah off the ball, whether it's Micah on the ball, because he can't be at two places at one time. And that's the difficult part of it.
Yeah, no, very well put. Like, if you're gonna go with him being full-time then you need to supply real linebackers behind him, right? And again, like I said, if you go look at this and you say you hold Dolphins to 3.5 yards per carry, you would think you come away to victory. But when they needed to make that run stop, they couldn't finish it and make the run stop. And again, they would have, they would have kicked the field goal one ahead, but at least you give Dak an opportunity to get back in the field goal range. He started to get in a rhythm. That's what we asked for, right? We said defense needs you to come out and make some plays. They came out, got a couple 3-and-outs, held them to some field goals, and then offense started to move the ball and get points themselves. And I feel like if they did that and they got the ball back to Dak with the at least 50-something seconds left, I started to have confidence that he's going to drive down there and get in field goal range. The beautiful thing about Brandon Aubrey, all you needed to do was get to like the 45-yard line. So we're talking like 25, 30 yards, and you give a shot to Brandon Aubrey. But they didn't get that chance. Dak's last possession, they go 17 plays, and they punch it in. He finishes the day with 20 for 32 for 253, 2 touchdowns. And, a valiant effort from him because Fangio, it was tough. I don't think this was easy. When we come and get to see the film, that middle part of the game was rough. They were trying to figure it out. And then you just saw him. I was telling my wife, I said, I need big body Dak, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of seen big body Dak in those last 2 possessions driving down the field. But then one possession, you get in the red zone and you don't punch it in, and that potentially could be the game if you do. But, Dak Prescott put out an effort there. CeeDee Lamb also put out a big effort, 6 receptions, 118 yards and a touchdown. I know it was 1 catch, but it was a huge catch for Brandon Cooks. He had 2 receptions for 14 yards. And, I mean, what a monstrous catch by Cooks right there, man. A lot of people get on him for body catching. That's why he does it, to shield off the dude behind him so they don't come through and knock the ball out. Just big-time plays right there by your big-time players. But we needed that on the defensive side of the ball to finish this thing out, and the Cowboys couldn't get it done.
One thing I'm going to be really curious, Scott, to look at when film comes out, and maybe tonight, I may even go back and look at the regular broadcast, TV copy of the game. CeeDee Lamb finished 6 catches, 118 yards. At the end of the first quarter, CeeDee Lamb had 4 catches for 93 yards. So you're telling me after the first quarter, he had 2 catches for 20-something yards. Why? What happened? Where did he go? Where were the play calls?
The 2 catches were in the last drive. They completely skunked him out.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm curious to figure out what happened. How is it that someone came out as white hot as he did? And I'm not saying that he has to have all the plays, but I'm saying is when you need to get things going, you need to play. There was that second, that third, and most of the fourth quarter where he wasn't even in the conversation. And it wasn't like it was like, oh well, Ramsey is coming over and he's locking him up, or there's double teams. There were some things that were happening defensively, but I'm just curious to figure out how can your best player. How can you take out your best player? Yeah. It's one thing if a defense completely sells out and they're saying, you know what, we're going to bracket this dude, we're going to sell out to stop this dude. But I find it curious, and I find it a little bit of a head scratcher that when a coach or a play caller decides to take out their own best player by just not dialing it up for him. That's the part I struggle with at times when it comes to Mike McCarthy is, yeah, I get, have profit all the way around. This is the National Football League, my boy. Like you got to go to the well often, especially when you have a player of that level, of that caliber. You got to be able to design stuff and call stuff that gets him the football in any way, shape, or form, because he has the ability, like you saw in the first quarter. Most of the guys on this team, if they caught that pass in traffic like he caught, probably a tackle, right? Probably a brought down for a 20-yard gain. That's a great game. But CeeDee Lamb has the wherewithal and the ability, the strength, the breakaway speed, the breaking the tackles, the running away from dudes to take that play into a 49-yard touchdown. So it's like he's different than most. And I don't understand how you go away from him for that long of a time. That to me is mind-boggling. A series.
And further your point, he was whooping Xavier Howard. So, I don't get how you don't look at that matchup and say, all right, that's mouse in the house, or whoever 41 was, or the guy in the slot. But Xavier Howard really had no answer. And I felt like you just said, why aren't we, funneling plays towards him? I don't care if it was a handoff, because he was cutting up on the ground too. So I'm with you. I'm curious to know, and I don't even know if it was coverage. I don't think it was coverage, to be honest. There was one play action, They tried to go deep, and they had like a triangle coverage on them. But there was
Then they tried to run the deep over, and the back picked them up on the backside. Yeah.
So you can't, obviously you can't do it there. But this should have been a game much like Seattle, 17 targets, much like New York Jets, 13 targets, Rams, 14 targets, Philly, 16 targets. This should have been that type of game. On the road, it should be about your big-time players. And it felt like we fell asleep and after he was just whooping, and I just didn't quite get it, man. I didn't get it. I'm with you.
Yeah, those type of things, they are, I don't know, they're head scratchers to me, because you even see it in the Miami side. They were like, all right, hold on. Tyreek Hill hadn't gotten involved in this situation. Oh, okay, let's go get him involved. And he went from having 2 catches to ending up with 9 catches for
7 in the second half.
Right, and so it's like, all right, well, let's get our guy involved. It was tunnel screens, it was slants, it was over the ball. Like they were working to get him the football. Yep. I don't know, man, and because with CeeDee, it's at times you think, oh, it's just a regular 12-yard hitch route or a 12-yard curl route or slant, whatever. Like, he has the ability and the capability of taking those plays and turning what would be for a normal player into a positive, gain. And we live to see another down, first down, whatever, who said it down, to a touchdown. Like, he has that ability, and not many in this league. That's entering that elite status that we talk about, right? That's that Jamar Chase, that Justin Jefferson, that Tyreek Hill, that category of player that you're saying, well, on a routine play, that 90% of the other NFL receivers make that play, and it's a positive play. It's those group of guys who can take that same play, make a guy miss, shake a guy off, outrun a guy, do whatever it is, and turn it to a big play. So it's like, why not? Why don't you want to get the ball to him more often? Those are the things that bother me in games like this, where you're talking about a 2-point game, and you look at CeeDee Lamb and you go, this man started the game really in the first drive, really, honestly, like the first drive or so, with 4 catches for 90-something yards, and then he doesn't see the ball again until the fourth quarter. Like, that is that, and I don't know. I don't know. That's weird to me.
I'm looking at the final drive, because that's crazy that y'all waited this long. But he got, I think, 5 targets in the final drive, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 targets in the final drive, right? And one was a 14-yard gain, and then to further push what you're saying, the other one was a 4th and 2 play. Should have been like a 5-yard. He out-muscles Xavier Howard and gets 6 extra yards to push it down the field. So why that gap to wait to the fourth quarter, at the end of the fourth quarter, to target him 5 times, where that should have been the method throughout the game, especially after he's just whooping these dudes. They had no answer for him. They had no answer for him, Jesse, and it was a bit shocking there. So yeah, we'll take a look at that for sure. Defensively, I'm not upset at them defensively, right? You come out of this game, 22 points. They had one really big explosive play.
Right.
Again, another game, another 38 quarters with no hold on Micah Parsons. You hold them to 3.5 yards per carry, and you held them to what? 6 points in the second half? 9 points. All field goals in the second half. You gave up, what, 1 touchdown in this game? So I think defensively, they did about as best they could. It just sucks that at the end they couldn't get that stop after your offense gave you the lead, So it was just, I talked about this before. It's weird, man. When we need to play complementary football, if it's not like a complete blowout in complementary football wise, it just feels like one of these parts of the team can't quite carry it over the finish line, if that makes sense, right? We saw it happen at the crib, but we haven't seen it happen away from Dallas against the quality opponents yet. And this was the last time, and they get shut out 0-4 on the road against quality opponents. And it's going to be something for me, Jesse, going into the playoffs, where I'm like, Dallas all year hasn't won 3 road games in a row, if I'm not mistaken. And now they're going to be required to win 3 games in a row to go to the Super Bowl. That's tough. That's tough.
That's really tough. That's really, really tough sled. And, and now when you think about it, like, I don't want to overcorrect myself when I say this. I don't want to go too far opposite way. But now when you say this, them not being able to beat a quality opponent on the road. Now you think about heading into the playoffs, most of the teams in the playoffs are quality opponents. So even in the first round when the Cowboys have to go on the road, there's a part of me that may be a little bit shaky if you have to go on the road and beat Tampa, because your ability to be dominant on the road.
So, if it's Tampa, they do have that in the back of their head. They went down there and beat the GOAT in Tampa, So,
Right.
there's that. If it's New Orleans, tough place to play. These aren't great teams. My concern isn't necessarily winning a one-off. It's consecutive, right?
Yeah.
Like you're unless something crazy happens, you're likely going to Tampa or New Orleans. Then you're going to San Fran, and then you're probably going to like Philly or Detroit. Right? Can you do 1, 2, 3 in a row? Let's
tough.
be real, bro. Let's just be honest. I love this team, right? Scale of 1 to 10, you're probably under 5 on your confidence meter because they haven't shown the ability to do this yet.
Yeah, no. I'm with you 100%, 1,000%. It is probably less than 5, honestly. If we're being really, really honest, if we're being unfiltered honest,
100%.
Then it's less than 5, because again, you just haven't you haven't shown, you haven't given us, you haven't given yourself much confidence to say that, hey, we can go on the road and put together a bona fide plan to beat a quality opponent, and you had the opportunity today. I thought today, when we got to halftime, that's why I kept saying, I said, you know what? I kind of like that we're still right here with the puncher's chance in this football game, and knowing that Miami is also a team who hasn't beaten a quality opponent. I'm like, they may give up the ghost as well. So I was like, I kind of like where we're at right there, but you get into those clutch moments, and sometimes not sometimes, but today you just didn't have enough for the curl to quite curl all the way over it and win the football game. And that's just it's disappointing.
Yes.
It's disappointing because the components are there.
Yeah.
The components are there for you to be one of the very best football teams, whether a home or away. It's not like you just you
see it in spurts, right? You see, man, this defense hunkered down, 3 and outs, stops, big plays. Man, this offense driving down the field, big body Dak, shaking guys off, getting first downs, touchdowns, clutch blocks, clutch runs, and then got to finish though, right? That was my whole thing. Go to Philly, man, so close, didn't finish. Go to Miami, man, so close, didn't finish. Got to finish against these good teams in a row, because there is no tomorrow in the playoffs. Yeah, we're going to play Detroit next week, which you can kind of bring your big boy pants for that too. So it's at home, but it's a different team at home. And then you go on the road against Washington. Who cares about that? So, here we are. Here we are. Cowboys did not pass a single test against a quality opponent on the road. And they'll go into the playoffs, and they'll have that lingering over their heads, and they'll have to do something. Forget they haven't done something since they've done it 30 years of going to Super Bowl. I don't know. Has Dallas, now y'all could tell me all the old heads, did they have to win 3 consecutive road games in the 90s to win the Super Bowl? I don't know if that's something that they've had to do, and if they did, it'll be the first. They'll have to do something that's the first. Not impossible, but you're making confidence on us wane as in regards to fans. In that locker room, though, I asked you at the start in the pregame show, I know these guys are going to be rah-rah and be like, hey, we got to bounce back. That's what we're supposed to do, 1 game at a time and things like that. But I can't – I'm just trying to get inside the player's head. 0-4 against good teams on the road. How can that not be sitting in your head like, man, what do we got to do?
Oh, it most definitely is. But the conversation on the plane will be had. The group side text will be had. The locker room huddles, it will be had, because it's a real conversation, right? And whether it's the stars or the guys in between or the guys below, that conversation is happening, because you heard in the program they talked about that the leaders of this football team had a meeting with one another, and nobody could come up with the answer.
I understood that. Yeah.
Right? Like nobody, the leaders had a meeting and saying, what is happening to us when we go on the road? And the leaders amongst this team, according to what they said in the report, was that when they asked them, well, what was the outcome? That nobody had an answer. Nobody knew right, wrong, or indifferent what the issues were. So that tells me that this is an issue that is even more deeper than what we even think about, because even those those who are actually doing it, who are on the field, who are in the grind every single day, they don't have answers. They're like, man, we don't know what happens to us when we go on the road. As a player, as a side of the football, we don't know. So if they don't know, well, how the hell are we supposed to know? And if they haven't been able to fix it, and today's another example of them not being able to fix the road woes, then what confidence have you given yourself, your coaches, and your fan base that you're going to be able to go on the road in the playoffs, and all of a sudden, as my coach used to say, like this, it's not going to happen by MF, right? Like no FM, excuse me. It's not going to happen by FM, and that's freaking magic. You're going to have to. He didn't say freaking magic. He said something else.
It's not going to happen MFFM by motherfucking freaking magic.
So this team, I mean, boy, we are looking at something right now that is going to be very challenging going forward. As from a fan's perspective.
100%, man. 100%.
It's going to be challenging because they don't have an answer. So we can sit here and debate and watch film and break film down and say this and say that and do all these things that we do and look at the numbers and the stats and the next gens and the analytics and all of it. And we have all the barbershop talk that we want. But if the guys who are actually in the arena can't figure it out, that says more to me than anything else. That's a real deep-rooted problem.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's not one thing. It's not concrete because I can't see it. They can't see. Nobody really. It's just whatever reason they're a completely different team on this road, man. It's unbelievable. I was going to give some flowers because we gave a little bit of flowers on the offense side of the ball with Brandon Cooks, Dak, and CD. The defensive side of the ball, I definitely want to, before we get out of here, want to definitely give a shout out to Jordan Lewis. I thought what he was asked to do in this game, Jesse, was very interesting. We went with the small lineup, obviously, a lot. And Jay Lou, for those who don't know, he does a lot of safety drills. And when someone asked about that, or maybe it was a behind-the-scenes conversation, I don't know. But it's because he's often in the box due to being a slot, right? And I was just very impressed with, and I shouldn't be because I've seen him be a really good tackler his whole career, but you know how people get this year. He was probably one of your best defenders in this game, top 3. To me, Jordan Lewis, Micah, and DeMarcus Lawrence all deserve some flowers on that side of the ball. D-Law did a fantastic job in this game, containing the edge. He took 3 dudes in the backfield on a third and short that forced them to kick a field goal. I mean, unbelievable. He said, screw what y'all throw at me. I'm taking y'all on this ride in Miami to the backfield. And then Micah was just providing pressure throughout the day, on the ball, off the ball, making plays, got him in on the sack, got a couple quarterback hits. But, you know, I know we're going to talk about Micah and D-Law, but Jay Lou, just off of the initial watch, he impressed me a lot in this game, man.
No, absolutely. You heard his name today in a positive manner, right? Like you didn't hear him saying people will getting receptions on him. He was feisty. He was aggressive. He was strong in the box. He made some really big time tackles, man, and that was impressive to see because he's not a big guy. Like he's not a guy that comes with a lot of stature and size to be playing inside. But he took on the assignment. He knew the assignment. He understood the assignment, and I think he did a wonderful job at it. Of course, we'll continue to break it down. But from the naked eye, we said it at halftime. I was like, man, I said Jordan Lewis is out here playing some football today. Like he was inspired today out there playing football. And when you're of the smaller variety out there, and you're still want to go in there and get dirty with the big boys, that to me is impressive. And Jordan Lewis was doing that on a consistent basis throughout this football game. So definitely flowers, big bouquet of flowers for Jordan Lewis and his performance today.
Absolutely, man. That'll wrap it up for the BT Furnishings post-game show. Dallas falls to 10-5. They will go back home and try to finish their home stint out against Detroit. I mean, it would have been amazing to get this dub, right? And still, Philly plays tomorrow, so they could potentially lose and have a shot not just at the division, but you got the Niners playing, the Ravens, have a shot at either the 1 or 2 seed, and doing so with Jimmy Johnson, coming back, getting inducted to the Ring of Honor. Hey, y'all, if we gonna do it this year on the road 3 times in a row, it's going to be because of the curse got lifted. That's all I got for you. I don't know what else to tell you. Hey, Sky, why the Cowboys gonna win 3 road games in the playoff? Because Jimmy's in the Ring of Honor, damn it. That's all I got for you, man.
Yeah, I asked somebody that before. I forgot what one of the shows I was on. I said, "All right, so tell me the timetable of a curse, right? Like, does a curse? Is it lifted immediately? Is there a season that has to go by? Is it like a calendar year up to that point? Like I don't. I'm like, tell me how this curse works because I need to know for my sanity. I need to know that on January 30th, when they pull the curtain back and his name is in the Ring of Honor, that like when the clock strikes 12, the curse is broken. I don't need to be like, oh, well, he did it this time. So calendar year next year, the curse will be lifted. I need to know how this curse works so that I can set my expectations properly.
When the Cowboys hoist the Lombardi, we will let you know that the curse is lifted. That's it. I mean, that's all I got for you. I mean, whenever they at the podium and they get all the fingerprints is on it, they lifted it up.
Yeah.
It can be in 3 months. It can be in 13 years. But we're going to come back to Jesse Holley and be like, see, I told you the curse is lifted.
The curse is lifted. All right.
It's got to happen at some point, man. I mean, geez. That's all I got for you, though, man. The road woes continue.
Yeah, man. I really do hope that this isn't a, this doesn't have a carryover effect. You know what I mean? Because you lose on 2 weeks in a row. And sometimes that can be like the flu in the locker room. That losing can be contagious.
Sure.
I just really hope that this thing doesn't, because you want to feel good going into the playoffs, right? Like you want to have that, and I don't care what it is, Sky. I mean, if you win a church basketball league, if you win the flag football contest at your kid's school, there's something about the feeling of winning. It just does something to you. No matter how big or how small the winning is, it just does something to you. But losing has the same effect as well. And when you have when you have 2 games in a row that you've lost, and the Cowboys haven't done that since 2021, that does something to you as well. And I hope that it's able to be shaken off between now and next week, because you don't want to have 3 games in a row that you lose, because now the sky really will be falling as you head into the playoffs. You want to have that good mojo about who you are, what you are, because if you lose next week and it's kind of like, well, everything is really out the window where the 5th seed will go forward, you're probably going to rest some guys against Washington. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't looked at the scenarios. And depending on how that may happen, you may be talking about losing 4 games in a row headed to the playoff. That's just not a good feeling.
Oh, man. Why would you put that in my head? I didn't even think of it that way. Jeez.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling to have. So I'm hoping and praying that this isn't a contagious thing, that they can shake it off and get back to their winning ways next week in Detroit, because you want to head into this playoff feeling good. At home, you want to feel good. It's going to be a glorious day. You know that Jerry's going to make this one of the greatest spectacles that you've ever seen. All the former players are going to be in the building. It's going to be talked about throughout the week. That's going to be the conversation. The conversation next week is going to be, all the old dogs come back, all the 90s Cowboys, they're going to revisit all those stories. That's going to be the conversation. And by the way, you're going to have to play a Detroit football team that's pretty good. I mean, their quarterback is playing good. They have a run game. Their defense is aggressive. They got a good young tight end. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a good receiver. Like that's not necessarily just because you play at home an easy win. That's a tough football team.
Yeah. I mean, I figured that's gonna be a tough game. I just wasn't thinking of what you were saying, like, and rest dudes and lose 4 in a row going to that can't happen. So they need to address this game with the same presence as they would this previous game they just had with Miami. Plus, depending what happens tomorrow, we've seen Philly drop the ball against Drew Lock, so it wouldn't be shocking if they did this against Tommy Cutlet. So if they go out there and lose, then you got to go in that game still playing for the division. It's technically not over yet. So it's still a lot to happen here in the next 3 weeks, but Dallas got to get that victory next week against the Detroit basketball, against the Detroit Lions next week.
Yeah, fighting Dan Campbell's, man.
All right, let me get out of here before Jesse put another hex on us here.
The curse is broken.
Cowboys Nation, we'll be discussing this not all week. We're off tomorrow. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Happy holidays to you, Cowboys Nation. And I'll be back Tuesday on here to be discussing this furthermore. And then, yeah, we'll have a full rest of the week, and then we'll be back here
Yep.
Sunday talking about this Detroit game. All right?
Absolutely, man. Happy holidays to everyone out there. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and to all a good night. I love you. God bless you.
Salute.